Colorado State Rams have already been through 2 years of Jay Norvell. Now entering year 3, this is supposed to be Norvell's best team yet, and Colorado State is expected to improve once again in 2024. They did it from 2022 into 2023, but now entering this year, hey, there are some rumblings that maybe this can be a Mountain West sleeper here. Will that be the case in 2024, and can Jay Norvell take this team to a bowl game? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? Here in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to prediction season, where I'm predicting all 134 FBS level college football teams. Guys, we are getting right there towards the end. If you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you got to hit that subscribe button. You got to ring the bell, especially if you want to hear what I have to say during the season. If you're a fan of a Power 4 team, you already have a video on my channel, but I want to thank you so much for watching this video, because it helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. You can support the channel in many other ways as well. Again, go watch my other prediction videos, as I'm predicting literally every single team in the country this summer. You can hit the subscribe button and ring the bell, again, if you're as big of a nerd as I am. Liking, commenting, sharing, and really anything else you guys do to help support the channel means a lot to me. Let's dive on in to talk about the Colorado State Rams this season. How do we do predictions this year? Glad you asked. We'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Ram football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things before we do start, because right over here are going to be the stats team put up either offensively or defensively last season, and of course, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. We'll waste no more time in talking about Colorado State, although before we start talking about their offense, I tried to find everything I could on a true offensive coordinator for Colorado State, but I couldn't find one. I would assume it would be Jay Norvell or maybe Matt Mumm, however you pronounce that last name, who is that quarterback coach. So Ram fans, the offensive play caller, leave it in the comment section down below. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated, not only to me, but I'm sure that other people watching this video as well. Let's dive on in talking about the players that we will see this season, but in order to understand what they have, you have to know what they lost, and you did lose Clay Millen from last season. Now, only 24 pass attempts, 110 yards, and did throw no touchdowns and 1 pick last year, but still a fairly experienced quarterback that you do lose out of this room. Yeah, he's transferred over to Florida. You have another guy leaving this room that's not on board, didn't throw a pass last year, but Jackson Stratton is going to go over now to play for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So you lose 2 guys to Power 4 programs, but you return your primary starter from last season. That was Braden Fowler Nicolosi, not a guy that projected to be a starter coming into last year, but really found his groove. He was inserted into that starting role, and he was excellent last season. 3,468 yards, 22 touchdowns, but this is the kicker. He threw 16 interceptions. He had a really good offensive line and in front of him that only allowed him to be sacked 12 times. Those interceptions really killed him last season. He had a 62% completion percentage, and look, 16 picks last year, that just needs to be cut back. You do return Jackson Brasso and Giles Pooler into this quarterback room, so Brasso and Pooler will be the backups here to Braden Fowler Nicolosi, but again, when you talk about him, he needs to cut back on the interception numbers. That's something that he just has to cut back on, especially if this Colorado State offense is going to take a step in the right direction. And honestly, look, the pass game was absolutely fantastic last year. We'll talk about a ton of weapons that they have here in just a little bit. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, a guy that, look, honestly, guys, if he figures everything out, I could see hitting 4,000 yards this season. Now, is that what I think is going to happen? No. 3,500 yards? Yeah, he almost hit that last season. There's no reason why he can't do that here in 2024. I expect him to improve his play. I expect him to cut back on the interception numbers, which is automatically going to get his completion percentage up. Could be a 3,500-yard passer, and I think he got a pretty darn good quarterback here for Colorado State this season. Your leading rusher in Van Shield does leave through the transfer portal. I believe he is off to an FCS program. Yeah, he is. He's off to Northern Colorado. Interesting storyline coming up later in this video. But he had 389 yards and 3 touchdowns on a team-high 90 carries last season. Braden Fowler Nicolosi is not a guy that's going to get outside of the pocket and run, so you're relying on running backs here to pick up the slack in the run game. It just wasn't a great run game last season. Although, yes, they did throw 501 passes. They only ran 332 times. So it is a pass-first offense under Jay Norvell, but the run game is going to have to take a step in the right direction this year. You're going to be on the shoulders of Justin Marshall, Avery Morrow, Kobe Johnson, and Damian Henderson II, who all return from last year's team. Wide receiver room, you do lose some fairly solid pieces here, such as Louis or Lewis, however you pronounce that first name, Brown the fourth. He had 481 yards, 5 touchdowns on 47 catches, so that's a pretty big loss there. But a bigger loss is Justice Ross Simmons. Again, both these guys leave through the portal. 45 catches for 724 yards. He led the team in yards per reception with 16.1 and broke the plane to the end zone 3 times, did Ross Simmons last year. And you also lose a really, really good tight end, your second leading receiver, as a matter of fact, in Dallin Holker, who you're now going to see playing on Sunday. 767 yards and 6 touchdowns for him. And look, all those guys provided some really, really good value and were just very good pieces to this wide receiver room last season. You get your leading receiver back almost, or I should say, he did break 1,100 yards last season. More specifically, 1,136 yards on a team high 96 catches, and led the team in touchdown receptions with 8 of them. That is Torrey Horton, a phenomenal wide receiver that decided to stay with Colorado State. Some people thought he may enter the transfer portal. Nope, he decided to stay with Colorado State here. He'll be the lead target for Fowler Nicolosi again in 2024. Dylan Goffney also does come back, 298 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 catches for him last season. So compared to Holker, Ross Simmons, and Brown, more of a depth piece in the wide receiver room. But hey, he'll be a huge part to this wide receiver room in 2024. Dane Olson does come back, as well as a ton of other pieces you could mention that were depth pieces that will see increased roles this season. But then I wanted to talk about guys they brought in through the transfer portal. I believe this is every transfer they're bringing in, but Donovan Ollie is projected to play the biggest role here. He's a transfer over from Cincinnati, but you're getting some other guys coming in as well. Armani Winfield is over from Baylor, and Kenyon Higgins is coming over from San Jose State, a team that, again, loses everybody with Brent Brennan going over to Arizona. And then the tight end room, well, Vince Brown II does come back, as well as Jordan Williams and Peter Montini, and Jackson Warren is a guy that does come in through the transfer portal to give some depth to that tight end room. He may actually end up being that starter in the tight end room here, especially with them needing to fill the role of Dallin Holker. And then on the offensive line, you do lose Oliver Jervis, a very experienced offensive lineman, to the NFL. Tavis Tuioti, hopefully I'm saying that name right, is gone through the transfer portal, and Bobby Lawrence has run out of eligibility. He is graduated. So your offensive line this year looks like this. Savion Henderson, Jacob Gardner, Drew Moss, Aaron Karras, and Keegan Hamilton are all guys that return, while Alex Foster comes into the transfer portal for Utah Tech. You do have some other transfers coming in here as well. Chandler Brown, I believe, is coming over from an FCS program or a Division II program. Again, not sure which, but you go ahead and you take a look at this offense overall for Colorado State in 2024. Look, it's still going to be really good through the pass game, but that offensive line got to stay consistent from where it was last season. And the run game, I know they don't run the ball as much as they throw the ball, and obviously the pass game is more vital to this offensive scheme than what the run game is. You have to at least break 100 yards per game. The run game is going to be able to supplement greatly, and especially at a program like Colorado State, when you have this many good wide receiver pieces, when Braden Fowler Nicolosi is throwing to Torrey Horton, having a good run game is going to be able to boost what this passing attack is able to do. If this run game can improve here, if this team can break 400 yards per game, if the rush game can break 100 yards per game, hey, you're looking at an offense that I think should see its improvements and could be one of the better ones in the Mountain West Conference this season. When you move over and you talk about the defense here for the Colorado State Rams, again, if my slide would change, there it goes. Well, you are losing an absolute load of talent off of this defensive side that honestly wasn't too great last year, and it's what held Colorado State back from really having a pretty darn good season last year. They averaged over 400 yards per game allowed. The pass defense was not great. The rush defense was not great. And overall, there was just a lot of improvement that could have been done with this Colorado State Ram defense. Well, you go and take a look at what they lose, and especially in the defensive line and cornerback position, they lose some really good pieces. We'll start out, of course, with that defensive line as we usually do. And, well, probably one of, if not the best piece on the defensive line from last season, I'll go and say I thought he was the best piece on the defensive line for the Rams last season, is off to the NFL. That's Mohamed Kamara, and the stats will back my point up. Not only did he lead defensive linemen in tackles with 56, he led the team in sacks and had some of the highest sack numbers across the entire nation because he got back to the quarterback 13 times last season, and Colorado State only played 12 games. So that is over a sack per game. Kamara was really, really good, and you will be missing his presence on the defensive line. Guys like Grady Kell, Marshawn Oxley, and Matt Thomas have all entered the transfer portal, and Tony Pierce Jr., a guy who had 33 tackles last season, has run out of eligibility and graduated. Okay, so who will be on the defensive front for the Rams this season? Well, newer Gat Kuth. Hopefully, I'm saying that name right. He does come back, was the second leading tackler among defensive linemen last year with 53 tackles, only half a sack. That should increase here this upcoming season. James Mitchell is coming back, as well as Cam Barito, Mukendi Wakalanji, Tyler Quinn, DeAndre Gill Jr., Kennedy McDowell, and many other names that you could list here are going to be staples on the defensive line this season for the Colorado State Rams. And when you go and take a look at the linebacker room, well, you lose one of your better defensive players from last season, and your third leading tackler, Justin Sanchez, is gone, 83 tackles to pair with 3 passes defended from last season. You're losing a really good player there, and a player that I think he did have double-digit tackles last season. It's Tremaine Mejia Pastor. He has entered his name into the transfer portal. 10 tackles last year, more of a depth piece, but nonetheless, when he played, some solid production for the Rams defense last season. In your linebacker room this year, no transfers coming in, so it'll be all returners. You get a really big returner coming back in Chase Wilson. Broke triple digits last year at 107 tackles, 3.5 sacks to go along with 3 passes defended. Boom Jock, Josh Ayers, and Drew Rodriguez are also all returners to the linebacker room here in 2024. In the defensive back room, no notable losses out of the safety room to me, so you lose a lot of production out of this cornerback room, though, including a guy that, again, you'll see now playing in the NFL. Chigozie Anuzium is gone and was just an absolutely phenomenal defensive back here. 57 tackles, 2 passes defended, only 1 pick. Yeah, I know the pass defended pick, not just a huge stat line, but he's an extremely talented player, and he will be missed in this Colorado State secondary. You also do lose TJ Crandall, who is going to be gone through the transfer portal. 19 tackles, 2 pass defended, 1 interception for him last year. And Ron Hardage, well, he's run out of collegiate eligibility and graduated. Only 12 tackles for him last season. Again, when he played, solid production from him. So in the cornerback room, you do return Dom Jones and Dylan Phelps. Those are guys that are going to play some really big minutes in the cornerback room, but you're also going to get a lot of guys coming in through the transfer portal, such as Isaiah Esasima and Elias Larry, that will provide some depth. In fact, those 2 guys may in fact be your 1 and 2 in the cornerback room starting here in 2024. Nonetheless, you'll see all 4 of those guys on the field, as well as potentially a freshman in Chauncey Davis that could see some good playing time as well. In your safety room, well, you get your leading tackler back. Jack Howell had 114 of them with 3 pass defended and 1 interception last season. Henry Blackburn, Aiden Hector, Dominic Morris, Jalen Gardner, Tyrell Grayson, and some other pieces in the safety room return here to make it a very experienced group of safeties here in 2024. And overall, a pretty darn good group of defensive backs. And kickers are people too, so let's show them some love. Ashton Wolf is off through the portal. He was kind of that second extra point kicker. He went 5 of 6 on extra points last season. He's entered the portal, but the primary place kicker from last year was Jordan Noyes. I don't know where I got Nyers from. No, Jordan Noyes is coming back to be the primary place kicker, and Patty Turner is back to be the primary punter here in 2024. The defense has to show its improvements this season, and look, it lost a ton of talent. Kamara and Anuzium obviously are the 2 biggest pieces that they lost, but you lost a ton of other really talented pieces on the defensive line. Justin Sanchez, due to graduation, is going to be a big loss, and then you do lose some pretty solid depth pieces as well. I like a lot of the talent that is here, and I expect, at the very least, some improvement out of this defense this upcoming season. I think with the little pieces that they got from the cornerback room in the transfer portal, and I think they've sprinkled in some other transfers that I just didn't mention here and there throughout the other position groups, but the most notable ones are out of the cornerback room. I think the defensive back room, if it gels well, can be pretty good this season. We'll see its improvements. You lost a lot on the defensive line. What's that defensive ability going to look like this season? A lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball, but it should see its improvements here in 2024. And now we dive on into the schedule. Any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics. And those of you who don't know what that is, that's the slanted text. Any game in green should be an easy win for the Rams, while any game in yellow is a close competitive one. But I still see the Rams being able to win. And of course, anyone in red is a loss. And I think they start out that way. I just don't see them beating the Texas Longhorns. That's going to be a really talented team this season, especially if they can fill the gaps on their own defensive line. Trey Moore from UTSA will help with that. They're going to be one of college football's elite teams this season. Colorado State will not be beating Texas. They're on the road in 2024. However, I do think they get their first win of the season against Northern Colorado. Remember the leading rusher for Colorado State last season. Yeah, the Shield, well, he's going over to play now for Northern Colorado. I think he's going to lose to his former team. Colorado State should be able to get off and running here with a win there in 2024. Now they get to play their rival in Colorado at home. And this, to me, honestly, is a really interesting game. Both of these teams are going to be improved from where they were in 2024. The Colorado's got things to get figured out with their offensive line and their battle in the trenches, period, offensively and defensively, but they still have Travis Hunter, they still have Shedeur Sanders, they still have Shiloh Sanders. They've got some, again, some really good pieces coming in through the portal, and they are expected, in my eyes as well, to be an improved team in 2024, but so does Colorado State. And this was a very evenly played game last season that came down to the wire in Boulder, and Colorado was able to win. Well, I think Colorado is also going to win this game here on the road at Colorado State. I just have a feeling that Colorado's going to be able to go on the road and get this one done. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be able to attack. Look, a secondary that I think is going to play this Buffalo wide receiver group really pretty darn well. Again, really big coin toss game for me. I give Colorado the slight edge, and that's why I'm picking them here, even though it is a road game. But overall, if you're going to want to look for a group of 5 to power 4 game to pick where the group of 5 team is going to win, this is a great example right here. Colorado State's going to have a lot of pieces that's going to give Colorado some fits, much like Torrey Horton on the outside. Colorado's going to have a really tough time defending him, but the two best players on the field that day are on Colorado. It's Travis Hunter, it's Shedeur Sanders, and I think they get it done. So that's a loss for the Rams, but they should be able to recover and beat the UTEP Miners. Now, some really good players that are still there on that team, and UTEP, a team out of Conference USA, probably going to hang right around there with some of the top teams in that conference. I overall, though, just see Colorado State being the more talented team, and especially with some of the pieces that UTEP lost defensively. I think that Colorado State's offense, especially if that run game can get going, but that pass game will be able to do its wonders, and they go 2 for 2, or I should say 2 for 4, 2-2 in non-conference play. Okay, well, technically, you have your last non-conference game here. After your first bye week of the season, it is a road game against the Oregon State Beavers, and I got you losing this one. Yes, I know, Oregon State lost a ton of pieces through the portal this year, and their head coach, Jonathan Smith, is gone. And I'll run through some of those pieces now. DJU is gone, Damian Martinez, Silas Bolden on the defensive side, Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, a really good linebacker, among some other names there defensively as well. Some really good pieces in the secondary, gone too. But they were able to supplement well through the transfer portal. Ben Goldbranson is back at quarterback. He led them to a 10-win season back in 2022. And overall, Oregon State's still going to be a really good, really competitive team this season. I got them beating the Colorado State Rams. So it's been an up and down kind of road for Colorado State so far. I think they compete in both the games against Colorado and Oregon State. They come up just short, but I think they get to come back home, and they'll get a win against the San Jose State Spartans. Still a team that I think has some pretty solid pieces, but overall, I mean, they just lost everybody from last season, and it didn't help that their head coach, Brent Brennan, now went over to coach the Arizona Wildcats, so he gets his opportunity in a Power 4 program, and with it, a lot of pieces are gone through the portal. Again, I still think they got a lot of solid pieces there, but I have them losing to the Rams this upcoming season. The back and forth continues here for Colorado State. I think they lose this road game to the Air Force Falcons. Now, I know Air Force loses a ton from last season. Colorado State plays a ton of teams this year that lose a lot from last year, and Air Force might be the team you look at and say they might have lost the most, okay, maybe besides Oregon State, but they only returned 5 starters, and most of their leading rushers, their quarterback Zach Larrier, Bo Richter, their best defensive piece, yeah, all those guys are gone. But Troy Calhoun, you could argue, is one of the best head coaches in college football. Air Force reloads like no other program, and they are still going to be one of the best teams in the Mountain West Conference this season. And with that one being a road game, I know both these teams based out of Colorado, little bit of a rivalry there if you could even consider it that way, but I do think Air Force is going to be able to win that game, and you are now looking here at sitting at 3-4. But hey, your next 2 games are against 2 teams in the Mountain West Conference that probably project to be the bottom 2 teams. That's New Mexico and Nevada, and I think you win both of them. Should be able to get a pretty easy home win against the New Mexico Lobos, even though it's a team that I think is starting to trend in the right direction. It has a lot of pretty good pieces. Overall, I just don't see New Mexico being that competitive with Colorado State and a lot of the more upper echelon teams in the Mountain West this season. And on the road against Nevada, hey, they were able to pull off some wins last year, but that's a team that's still trying to figure out their identity. They're still trying to rebuild, and I think Colorado State, much more talented. They'll be able to get a big road win right there. Okay, you got 3 games coming up here, and honestly, winning 2 out of 3 of these, I think is gonna be a big win here for Colorado State, and I think that's exactly what happens. After your second bye week of the season, you get an extra week of preparation against the Wyoming Cowboys, and look, they got some good returning pieces. There are some pieces that leave as well as or I should say, as well as Craig Bowl, their legendary the head coach. Wyoming is still going to be one of those teams that's going to hang around. They're going to compete really nicely with Jay Sawbell at the helm now. But going on the road to play Colorado State, I think Torrey Horton, Braden Fowler, Nicolosi gives that defense some trouble, and they're going to be able to win there. Will the Colorado State Rams? But then you got to go on the road and play Fresno State, and I just love Jeff Tedford's group this year. Mikey Keene is coming back to play quarterback. Got a ton of really talented offensive pieces. Defense is loaded again. I think you lose that game to Fresno State, but Utah State, don't count them out this season. That's going to be a team that, hey, they bring some good pieces in through the portal. I think are going to be sneaky competitive in the Mountain West this year, even though Blake Anderson did just get let go, which definitely throws a wrench into this as well. Who knows how many players will leave through the transfer portal? I got that one being a win for the Colorado State Rams, which means 7-5 is the way I see Colorado State's season playing out. They improved from 2 wins 2022 into 2023, and I think they improved 2 wins yet again from 2024 into 2025. They get into a bowl game, and I just really like a lot of the offensive pieces on this team, and if a lot of the pieces on defense can gel, I think they can definitely get more than 7 wins, but 7 wins is right around where I'm sitting for Colorado State. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we'll talk about Coastal Carolina in my next video. Goodbye.